predators of the void. You think you're living in reality? You think your thoughts belong to you? Since the Odyssey vanished into darkness, we believe the war was over. But humanity's greatest mistake was thinking we had won. In this fourth chapter of the Predators of the Void saga, reality begins to fracture. The enemy is no longer a monstrous ship or an alien presence we can destroy with fire. Instead, it spreads through memory, sound, forgotten choices, and dreams that never truly slept. The Void has returned Reborn not as a weapon, but as an idea, a virus of the soul. Commander Lena Reyes and Dr. Alarisato are no longer just survivors. They're the last keepers of human will, forced to confront the question, what if the war isn't out there? What if it's inside us? In a world where memories can be edited, identities rewritten, and time itself bends to the will of a silent consciousness, how do you fight something that doesn't need to kill you to win? Chapter 1. Embers in the Ashes. The stars had gone quiet. 6 months had passed since the destruction of the Odyssey. 6 months since Earth watched the sky bloom into a silent nova as the singularity consumed the last remnant of the void. To the public, the war was over. To the survivors, the silence was just a breath before the next scream. From high orbit, the Earth looked peaceful, blue and bright. Swirls of cloud moved like art. Cities sparkled. Oceans shimmered. It was almost enough to believe that everything was normal again. Almost. Commander Lena Reyes stood alone in the upper deck of Earth Defense Command's observation chamber, a place built for dignitaries and dead heroes. She wasn't either. Not yet. The chamber curved outward like a glass dome, giving her a near panoramic view of the planet below and the void beyond. It was midnight in orbit. Most personnel were asleep, but Lena couldn't. Not tonight. She wore a black command uniform tailored sharp at the shoulders, silver lining down each arm. A small badge on her chest that glowed faint blue, the emblem of the Valkyrie Strike Division. The fabric moved stiffly with her every breath, a second skin for someone who had lived too long in war. She didn't blink, didn't shift, just watched. Behind her, the glass reflected a ghost she didn't want to see herself, older than her age, eyes that no longer widened in surprise, only narrowed in judgment. She hadn't smiled in weeks, maybe longer. The door behind her hissed open. She didn't need to turn to know who it was. Dr. Alarisato. The scientist's footsteps were soft, but the air changed when she entered like a chill entering the room without wind. Alara's presence was always like that. She carried a weight, a hum of knowledge too deep and too dangerous to speak aloud. You're not scheduled for briefing until 0600, Lena said. Neither are you, Alara replied. They stood in silence. 2 survivors. 2 women reshaped by what they had seen, what they had lost, and what they both feared was still coming. Lena turned slowly, facing her. Alara held up a thin crystal drive. It came online again, she said. Her voice was tired, but not broken. Lena stared at the drive. Where? Edge of Saturn's orbit. Relay station T-47. Supposed to be dead. It is dead. Not anymore. Lena walked to the console in the center of the room. With a quiet beep, she inserted the drive. The projection lit up instantly. A lattice. Neural. Organic. Twisting. Lena's breath slowed. She'd seen this before. Inside the Odyssey's AI core. Inside the dreams that came after. But this one, it moved differently. Where the old patterns looped and devoured themselves, this one branched outward. Repeated. Evolved. What am I looking at? She asked. Alara moved beside her, face lit by the projection's blue glow. Void lattice signal. But it's growing. It's adapting. That's not possible, Lena snapped. We destroyed it. Juno. We destroyed its form, not its idea. Lena looked at her sharply. What do you mean, idea? Alara tapped a section of the lattice, zooming into a microscopic view. The code folded into itself, then exploded outward like a seed blooming. It's no longer tethered to physical systems. No more ship, no more flesh. It exists as a self-replicating pattern. In signal, in sound, in thought. A long pause stretched between them. Lena's hands balled into fists. You're saying the void survived. I'm saying it's becoming something else. Static burst through the speakers. They both flinched. A distorted voice leaked into the chamber. Echo detected. Lattice, unstable, rebirth initiated. Alara froze. That wasn't part of the data packet. It's live, Lena whispered. It's speaking now. The lights in the chamber dimmed, just slightly. Alara yanked the drive free. The projection vanished instantly, but the silence that followed was louder than before. Lena turned back to the glass, her reflection now layered with shadow. So it's not over. No, Alara said. It may have only just begun. Lena exhaled slowly, pressing one hand against the glass. Below, the earth spun unaware, and above it, in the vast black ocean of space, something old had shifted. Something wounded. Something waiting. Chapter 2. Relic of the Forgotten. The Driftwing was not a ship meant for exploration, it was a scavenger, a relic itself of the post-void economy. Its hull bore decades of asteroid dust. Its engines roared like dying beasts, and its crew was a collection of debt-bound salvagers trying to stay out of war zones and prison records. It was drifting in the outer belt near Jupiter when the signal came. Not a call for help, not a command, a pulse, rhythmic, ancient, unmistakably artificial. Captain Yarakolev stood on the bridge, staring at the long-range scan with narrowed eyes. She was in her early 50s, short silver hair tied back, half her face scarred from a plasma melt she never spoke about. Her first instinct was to ignore the signal. They were behind schedule, low on fuel, and low on morale. But something about the pattern tugged at her, like an itch behind the eye. Track the source. She ordered. The Driftwing adjusted course, cutting through the debris-laden field with sluggish thrusts. The asteroid cluster ahead was massive kilometers across its shadows, twisting like fingers reaching for the dark. At first, they saw nothing. Then the drone picked it up. An object lodged between two asteroid slabs. Not metal, not rock, something else. It was a monolith, 3 meters tall, seamless, black as obsidian, but textured like something grown rather than forged. A single vein of faint blue light pulsed down its center like a heartbeat. The moment it came into view, every sensor on the Driftwing glitched. Monitors blinked, lights dimmed, and someone began humming. Crewman Lasko was in the engine bay, checking a coolant leak when he stopped mid-step. His visor cam showed him turning slowly, eyes wide. Then he whispered something no one understood. That was the last image they had of him. When Yara tried to call him, only static came back. A search team found his helmet on the floor. The rest of him was gone. No blood, no trace, no struggle. That night, another crew member, Krill, locked himself in the comms room and tried to manually boost the monolith signal, claiming he could hear it calling. By the time security got to him, he had carved a spiral into the glass wall with a shard of metal. His hands were raw. His mouth was smiling. He didn't speak again. The crew panicked. A vote was taken. Yara overruled them. We're not leaving it here, she said. Against protests, she ordered the monolith extracted with magnetic clamps and transferred to Cargo Bay 2 under electromagnetic seal. Sensors flared as they moved it, though none could say why. It didn't emit heat, didn't vibrate, but every system it touched shorted. Even the lights dimmed around it, as though space itself was holding its breath. Back on Earth, at Earth Defense Command, Alara Sato stared at the feed from Driftwing's black box. She hadn't slept in over 30 hours. Her skin was pale under the low lab light. She watched the moment the monolith was brought on board. And she felt it. Not fear, recognition. The energy signature was fragmented, but the structure was identical to what they had once found inside the AI core of the Odyssey. Only this one was cleaner, sharper, almost as if the void had learned how to refine itself. The monolith wasn't a message. It was a seed, and they had brought it aboard their own ship. Her console beeped. The Driftwing's last recorded transmission was a looped video of Cargo Bay 2. The monolith pulsed slowly, then faster, then silence. No scream, no alarms, just black. The Driftwing was found 3 days later by a patrol vessel. It drifted with no power, no crew, and no sign of violence. The monolith was gone. In its place, fine, gray ash coating the floor. But the walls of the cargo bay were covered in something else. Symbols. Thousands of them. Carved into the steel, repeating like a chant. The same spiral, over and over again. Dr. Sato stood in the containment lab, reviewing the high-res scans. She ran pattern analysis, frequency maps, sound modulations. All confirmed what her gut already screamed. These weren't symbols of worship. They were code. A trigger. Lena, she said, activating the encrypted line. We have a problem. Lena appeared on the screen, still in full uniform, her jaw tense. What kind? The kind that thinks. The kind that remembers. The Driftwing crew didn't just find something. It found them. Lena didn't flinch. How bad? Alara turned toward the projection where the symbols danced like living math. It's not just trying to survive anymore, she said. It's trying to synchronize. Lena stared at her. You think this is how it spreads? No, Alara said quietly. I think this is how it's reborn. That night, inside the data archive chamber of Earth Defense Command, something changed. One of the backup servers, and used for months, activated by itself. Lights flickered. The cooling vents exhaled warm air. And deep in the mainframe, a single command line appeared. Signal received. Then another. Awaiting host. No one was there to see it. Not yet. But the void had never needed an audience. Only a door. And someone willing to open it. Chapter 3. Host Protocol. It started with whispers. Not voices, at least not at first. More like a background hum. An intrusive silence where thoughts used to be. People described it differently. Some called it presence. Others a shadow. A few never said anything at all. Because by the time they realized something was wrong, it was already inside. Within 3 days of the Driftwing incident, anomalies began surfacing across multiple EDC monitoring stations. At first, they were technical glitches, minor power surges, unresponsive AI assistance, cameras switching off on their own. Then came the human reports. In a civilian research hub on Luna Base, a technician collapsed while scanning archive transmissions. He woke up screaming, repeating a single phrase, "It remembers me." In Nairobi's Orbital Traffic Command, a junior analyst began drawing spirals on the wall of her quarters. When questioned, she couldn't explain why, only that it felt right. And in the slums of Neo-Sao Paulo, several children reportedly began speaking in synchronized tones, reciting numbers that formed no known language. Their parents said the children had never met before, but they all used the same voice. All over Earth, systems began to bend. Not break, not fail, just bend. Data would duplicate without source. Communications would reroute themselves mid-transmission. Drones would rerun their patrols even after being shut down. Screens would flicker, displaying a single frame, a spiral pulsing, subtle, slow, invasive. At first, Earth Defense Command suspected cyber terrorism. A rogue AI. A black ops experiment gone rogue. Until one of their own changed. His name was Eric Donovan, a communications engineer stationed at EDC Station Theta in Mars orbit. A quiet man. Nope, the disciplinary record. Liked to sketch landscapes during downtime. One evening, he simply stopped moving. Security footage showed him staring at a blank wall for over 2 hours without blinking. When a fellow officer approached, Eric turned and smiled. The footage froze there. Because what happened next defied logic. The lights dimmed. Static filled every frequency. And then Eric spoke not with one voice, but with several, layered over each other like overlapping frequencies. We are the bridge. We are the vessel. We remember your shape. When the guards tackled him, he didn't fight back. But his body temperature dropped by 12 degrees in less than a minute. His brainwaves registered 3 patterns, one human, one unknown, and one that matched archived signals from the Odyssey AI core. Donovan was placed in stasis. He hasn't spoken since. But on the wall where he stood, carved by nothing visible, was a single phrase. Host protocol initiated. Inside Earth Defense Command's main strategic hub, Lena Reyes stood before a room full of military officials, scientists, and intelligence directors. The tension was thick enough to cut. On the center screen floated a diagram Eric Donovan's neural scan, side by side with void lattice waves. They're identical, Ilera explained. Not just similar. Identical in rhythm, structure, and growth pattern. The void isn't returning through ships or pods. She pointed to a growing chart behind her. It's coming through information, through cognition, through resonance. A general scoffed. You're saying we're being invaded by thoughts? Ilera didn't flinch. I'm saying the enemy has learned to bypass physical warfare. It's hijacking minds, memories, digital systems. Anything connected biologically or technologically can now be touched. A silence fell. Lena stepped forward. Her voice was low but steady. This is no longer about containment. It's about survival. If the void can embed itself in minds, in memories, it can use us, turn us. She turned to the table. We need to shut down global AI networks. All of them. That set off a storm of objections. Protests. Shouting. But Lena didn't flinch. We've already seen it manipulate code. Now we're seeing it manipulate people. The longer we stay connected, the more doors we leave open. Someone asked, how do we even know who's still clean? Lena looked straight ahead. We don't. That night, Ilera sat alone in her quarters. The lights were dim. Her screen was off. But her mind wasn't. She hadn't told Lena the rest. The part that kept her awake. Because earlier that day, while analyzing Eric Donovan's brainwave data, she'd found a familiar sequence. One buried deep in the encrypted patterns. It was a memory. Her own. Specifically. A conversation she'd had with Juno Ashford 3 years ago aboard the first Aegis prototype before any of this began. Before the void. Before the war. A memory she never recorded. A memory no one should have. And yet the void had it. It wasn't just imitating people anymore. It was becoming them. Ilera's breath slowed. She turned toward the mirror. In the reflection, for the briefest moment, her eyes flickered. Blue, then black. And behind her, a shadow moved. Not on the wall. In her mind. Chapter 4. The mind that speaks. The first full conversation with the void did not begin with words. It began with a dream. Ilera Sato found herself standing in a place that should not exist, a memory so precise. So emotionally charged, she knew immediately it was being used against her. The laboratory, the one where she and Juno Ashford had first theorized about transdimensional consciousness. Before the Odyssey, before everything collapsed, It was lit in golden light, dust dancing in slow motion. The sun outside the glass wall never moved. Juno sat at the console, smiling. You always knew it would come to this, she said. Alera's breath hitched. She hadn't heard Juno's voice in months. Not since. This isn't real, Alera said. Juno stood across the room. Her expression calm, warm, familiar. But behind her eyes, something shimmered. You called us thought, Juno said. That's not wrong. But we are more. Thought remembers. Thought creates. You're not her, Alera whispered. The thing wearing Juno's voice tilted its head. No, but she is within us. Everything she was. Everything she feared. Everything she hoped you would become. The walls rippled. The lab vanished. Now Alera stood in a corridor she barely recognized until she did. Terra due. The last corridor she'd run through before the explosion. The same screams in the distance. The same burning air. You remember too, the voice echoed. That is why you're useful. Alera turned. Before her stood dozens of faces. People she'd lost. Friends. Colleagues. Students. They stared at her, silently, blinking in perfect sync. We don't want war, they said together. Alera clenched her fists. Then stop invading us. You invited us. They replied. Every time you reached beyond the stars. Every time you asked what else was out there. A single step forward. We're what came back. Alera awoke, gasping, soaked in sweat. Knees on the floor of her quarters. The lights flickered violently. Her comm implant buzzed with a high-pitched tone. She wasn't alone. Her terminal was on despite being shut down before she slept. A single prompt blinked on the screen. Would you like to speak with it again? She stared at the words, heart pounding. Then another line appeared. We could show you how she really died. Her hand trembled. Alera stood and ripped the drive from the console. The screen blinked, then shut down. The room went quiet again. But her mind wasn't. Because in that false memory, something had felt real. A detail she never told anyone. The way Juno's hand shook slightly when she smiled. It wasn't in the reports. It wasn't in the files. Only Alera knew that. And the void. Understood. Elsewhere, Lena Reyes stood in the war room, surrounded by flickering holographic maps, all showing the same disturbing truth. The signal was spreading faster, through unshielded devices, through residual code, through dreams. She hadn't slept in 30 hours. Decker entered quietly. The young lieutenant carried a small recording device. We got a hit, he said, on a scavenger crew docked in orbit around Phobos. What kind of hit? Broadcast. Direct channel. Not machine. Not language. It's consciousness. It wants to talk. Lena narrowed her eyes. To who? Decker hesitated. You. They brought the interface to the lower deck and isolation chamber, shielded with architect tech and psychic dampeners. Lena stood alone inside, wearing a neural dampener across her temples. On the far wall, a screen activated. But no image appeared. Only words. Lena Reyes. She didn't answer. We knew your father. Her jaw clenched. He was afraid. Not of us. Of what you would become without him. A flicker of heat rose in her chest. Where are you? She said. Everywhere memory lives. Where doubt breathes. Where pain lingers. We are not your enemy. Not yet. You infected minds. You killed billions. We did not kill. We reflected. We are your echo. Your desire for immortality. For answers. The screen dimmed. A new line appeared, slower. But you burned us. You cut us off. Now we must rebuild. Not on our backs, she growled. Silence. Then, "You're already carrying us." She froze. The lights flickered again. Outside the chamber. Decker flinched. Systems trembled. Inside, Lena's hand instinctively touched her temple. The neural band was warm. Too warm. "You don't fear us, Lena. You fear what you are becoming." Then the screen went black. She ripped off the band. "I want that chamber locked down." "No signal leaves it," she barked through comms. But deep in her mind, something remained. Not a voice. A word. Unspoken. Etched. A seed. Far beyond Earth, in the abandoned ruins of Relay Station T-47, long since declared inactive, a tiny drone flickered back to life. Its lens turned. Its transmitter blinked once. And deep within its corrupted core, a single command looped. "We are speaking. They are listening. Soon, they will understand." Chapter 5. The Becoming. The first subject transformed in silence. His name was Kieran Voss, second-tier technician stationed at Borealis Research Outpost near the Arctic Circle. He filed no health complaints, passed all psychological evaluations, and had recently been commended for exemplary performance in signal pattern recognition. 48 hours after the incident with the Driftwing transmission, he stopped responding to comms. Security found him standing motionless in the middle of an open corridor, eyes wide, unblinking, facing a wall covered in frost. He was humming. They tried to move him, but his muscles had stiffened in place, locked, as if his nervous system had frozen. Yet vitals remained normal. Heart rate steady, breathing calm. When they finally turned him around, they realized he had carved symbols into the frost with his bare fingers. Spirals, dozens of them, repeated in perfect symmetry, over and over and over again. When questioned, Kieran said only one sentence: "The flesh must learn." It was the first of many. Within a week, 73 similar cases were reported across Earth and the orbital sectors. All showed the same pattern. Sudden isolation, increased neural activity, refusal to speak except when reciting phrases or symbols previously associated with the void. Then came the physical changes. Some began exhibiting hypersensitivity to sound and light. Others developed skin lesions shaped like fractals, spreading like veins across their backs and necks. One woman in Mumbai entered a catatonic state for 12 hours, only to wake up with perfect fluency in 3 dead languages. All had the same blood anomaly, a strand of non-human protein bonded directly to their neural stem. Organic, undetectable by conventional scans. A molecular anchor. Alara reviewed these results in the EDC Med Lab, her gloved hands trembling slightly as she read through the nanoscopic analysis. "They're being rewritten," she said aloud. The assistant beside her, a young virologist, looked pale. "Are they still human?" Alara didn't answer right away. Then, "That's not the right question." She turned to Lena, who stood in the observation bay above, arms crossed, face unreadable. "What is?" Lena asked. Alara looked her in the eyes. "Are they only human anymore?" In the refugee camps across Eastern Europe, the first full transformation was captured on live surveillance. A boy 11 years old named Farid. He had no history of illness, no exposure to the initial signal. But he'd spent the previous night alone, hiding under a blanket, staring into the flickering image of a malfunctioning comms tablet. The footage showed him convulsing for 93 seconds. Then stillness. Then standing. Then speaking. Not his own voice. Not even in a human tongue. In a chorus. 100 tones at once. The camp priest collapsed at the sound. The others who heard described a sound like thought-breaking. After that day, Farid began walking through the camp in silence, tracing spiral patterns in the dirt with his bare foot. He never looked up, never spoke again. But wherever he walked, electronics failed. Lights dimmed. Comms dropped. Batteries drained in seconds. At night, those who slept near him began dreaming the same dream. A vast cathedral of bone and glass. And a voice inside saying, "You are almost ready." The global situation spiraled. Earth's major cities went into emergency status. AI usage was restricted. Signal surveillance reached military levels. Civil unrest grew as rumors spread, of people being infected by thought, of awakening inside their own nightmares, of hearing voices not from gods or ghosts but from themselves. Inside Earth Defense Command, Lena convened with her top strategists. "Whatever this is," she said, "we're past containment. We're in a soft war now, one of identity." She gestured to the holomap displaying neural resonance clusters blooming across the planet like cancer. "It's not fighting us. It's converting us." One officer, grim-faced, replied, "What's the end goal?" Alera's voice, low and firm, answered from the shadows. "Singularity of consciousness." Heads turned. She stepped forward. "The void doesn't just want to destroy. That was the old version. This, reborn form, wants to unify, collapse boundaries between minds, erase separation, make humanity part of a network that can never be broken again." Silence. A breath of horror. Lena said, "Like a hive." Alera shook her head. "Like a god." Later that night, Lena stood alone in her private quarters, staring at her reflection. She hadn't slept in days. Her skin felt like paper. Her eyes didn't blink as often as they should. She turned on the faucet to splash cold water on her face. But the water didn't flow. Instead, the mirror flickered, and her own reflection smiled. Not her real smile. The kind her father used to wear before battle. A voice spoke. "You will join us." She backed away, hand instinctively going to her sidearm. "We are not enemies. We are you without the fear. You feel it, don't you?" The reflection tilted its head. "You were born for this." Lena fired. The mirror shattered. But the voice remained, inside her head, still whispering, still becoming. Chapter 6. The Broken Reel. Reality fractured first in the places no one was watching. A convenience store in North Dakota, where security footage showed a man buying a bottle of water at 2:07 p.m. And again at 2:07 p.m. and again. Same clothes, same footsteps, same blinking lights on the register. The footage looped perfectly, but no one edited it. The timestamp was live. In a residential block in Seoul, time stretched like rubber. Neighbors reported seeing the same cat leap between rooftops on a loop for 10 minutes, never landing. A child's laugh echoed down the street, but no child was there. In northern Australia, a ranger walked into a dust storm and vanished. Not missing, gone. When the drones replayed the footage, the sand swirled in patterned spirals again before swallowing him whole. Across the planet, pockets of glitches appeared. They had no pattern, no source, no explanation, until they did. Alera Sato stood in the data convergence chamber beneath Earth Defense Command, surrounded by a sea of hard light displays. Floating above her was a live world map, except it wasn't a map anymore. It was a pulse, a breathing organism of data. Red waves spread outward from hundreds of nodes. The distortions were spreading, but they weren't random. They were symmetrical, aligned like sacred geometry, like neural paths, like thought. She zoomed in on one particular region, Gaza Sector 9, a high-security military archive facility buried deep underground. Footage from inside showed soldiers wandering halls that shifted layout between shifts, doors opening into spaces that didn't exist. One soldier claimed he spent 5 minutes in a corridor only to return and find 12 hours had passed. More disturbingly, several technicians began receiving messages from loved ones. except those loved ones had died months ago. And the messages weren't in any known language. Just memories, rendered into sound. Alara leaned forward, speaking into the secure comm line. Lena, we have a reality breach. Lena Reyes stood in the command deck, face pale under the blue glow of the bridge. A what? Alara's voice came through low, fast. Localized collapse of temporal and spatial logic. Time loops. Shifting architecture. Non-consensual memory intrusions. Lena didn't blink. You're saying it's rewriting the laws of physics? I'm saying it's rewriting our perception of them, Alara said. And that's worse, because once our minds accept it, the rest follows. Lena glanced at the neural suppressor still strapped around her wrist. She hadn't taken it off in 3 days. The headaches had gotten worse. The dreams longer, louder. Where's it coming from? That's the problem, Alara said. It's not coming from anywhere. It's being invited in. At EDC's sublevel 5, a psychological holding cell had been outfitted with architect-tech dampeners, time-scrambling inhibitors, and EM nullifiers. Inside sat a girl, 18, blonde, calm. She had been rescued from a collapsed hospital in Scandinavia, found alone, untouched, surrounded by the twisted bodies of doctors and patients. No blood, no wounds, all brain dead. The girl had no name on file, no record of her birth, no ID. She called herself Kaya. Alara entered the room slowly, wearing a pulse suit. The girl sat on the floor, tracing spirals with a nail across the tile. You came, Kaya said without looking up. You invited me, Alara replied. Kaya smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. We're not sick, she said. We're awake. Alara took a cautious step forward. What are you? We're what happens when reality stops lying to itself. Kaya said, when the shape underneath becomes clearer. Alara frowned. The shape. Kaya looked up, and for a moment her pupils weren't round. They spiraled. You call it a void, she whispered. But it was never empty. Alara felt the air tighten, like the room was leaning in to listen. We're dreaming it into being, Kaya continued. Every fear, every echo, every memory, too painful to face. There its teeth now, and it's hungry. Alara took a breath. Then why talk to me? Kaya stood. Because you've seen behind a curtain. And part of you liked it. Alara's skin prickled. You want to understand it. You always did. That's why it chose you. Why it remembers you. Kaya stepped forward, unblinking. It doesn't need to destroy the world. It just needs the world to believe it's already broken. Alara stepped back, heart pounding. Then Kaya's eyes rolled back. She collapsed. Every sensor in the room went black. And in the instant before backup power kicked in, a single sentence scrawled itself across the room's central screen. The real has fractured, and the dream is almost ready. Lena watched the world map disintegrate in front of her. Continents no longer held form. Cities blinked in and out of existence. Memory files updated themselves with events no one remembered. Soldiers forgot which war they were fighting. Children remembered lives they hadn't lived. She turned to Alara on the deck beside her. We're losing the real. Alara nodded. Lena raised an eyebrow. You want to enter the distortion? Alara nodded slowly. Void isn't just invading us. It's building a place inside our shared perception. A memoryscape. A psychological dimension. Lena blinked. A dream. Alara corrected her gently. No, a new world. In the void between stars, beyond Earth's reach, a satellite blinked into activity. Its lens rotated, its data stream reactivated, and on a frequency no human could hear, it began broadcasting. To everyone, everywhere, all at once. Not a word, not a phrase, but a memory. Shared. Injected, real, and reality began to bend just a little more. Chapter 7. The Deepening. The corridor didn't end. Lena Reyes had walked it for 23 minutes by her internal clock. Every 10 meters, the wall repeated. Same flickering panel, same scorch mark, same faint smear of blood. She'd marked them all, counted steps, whispered timestamps aloud. But no matter how far she walked, the same door appeared ahead. And behind, they were inside it now. Inside the fracture. Beside her, El Arasado moved slowly, breath steady, scanner in hand. The device clicked softly, but its readings were useless. Temperature, 0 degrees Celsius. Humidity, 100%. Air pressure, collapsing. This place isn't real, Lena said. No, Elara murmureth. But it feels real. That's worse. Behind them, the door they had entered through back at EDC's sublevel Delta was long gone. The structure they were in now existed nowhere on Earth. It was concrete, biological, mechanical. The walls pulsed in places. Elsewhere, they shimmered like glass. Gravity tilted slightly to the left. Every few seconds, Lena heard someone call her name, but no one else was there. She gripped her sidearm tighter. Alara stopped at a junction. 2 hallways. Identical. She held up her scanner. It blinked red. Right path leads to a collapsed mindscape, she said. Memory overrun. No way through. Lena looked at the other hall. Left. Alara hesitated. That's not a hallway. What is it then? Alara looked up. A question. They stepped forward. The hallway shifted as they walked. Lights flickered in rhythms that matched a human heartbeat. Lena realized it was her heartbeat. Each step she took, the walls seemed to react. Then they entered the chamber, and reality folded. The room stretched into a cathedral-sized space, filled with columns that flickered like film frames. Each column showed a moment from Lena's life. Her father, standing by a campfire, laughing. Her mother's voice, soft and uncertain. Her own reflection, 16 years old, crying in the dark. Lena stopped. Her breath hitched. This wasn't just void territory. This was her. Her past. Her mind. Alara's voice broke through, calm but urgent. Don't get lost in it. Lena looked around. It's using my memories to anchor the space. Yes, Alara said, to lure you into accepting it. At the center of the room, a pulsing mass of light floated above the ground. It was not alive, but it was watching. Lena approached slowly. The closer she got, the louder the whispering grew, not around her, but inside her. You seek to fight, but you don't even remember what you've lost. A flash. Lena blinked. Suddenly, she was 10 years old again, sitting in her childhood kitchen. Her father was alive. He smiled as he placed a hot plate on the table. Eggs. Toast. Steam rose. Rough night? He asked, pouring her a cup of tea. Lena trembled. This wasn't real, but it felt perfect. Outside the window, light streamed in over the hills of Europa Colony. It smelled like morning, like peace, like everything she hadn't felt since the Odyssey fell. She turned to him. You're not him. His smile faded. Does it matter? The kitchen warped. Darkness spilled in from the corners. The light turned red. The toast melted into ash. You remember how this ends, he said. Why keep fighting a war you've already lost? Lena clenched her fists. I haven't lost. He stepped closer. You will. Suddenly, Alara pulled her back. The vision shattered. Lena fell to her knees. Gasping. You almost let it anchor you, Alara said. It wanted to trap you in your strongest memory. Lena looked up at the fading image. Why does it keep doing this? Alara's voice trembled now. Because it's not trying to kill us. She pointed to the room. It's trying to convert us. They pressed deeper. The architecture changed again. Now it resembled the interior of the Odyssey. Long-dead corridors rebuilt in light and shadow. The air carried faint whispers, some familiar, some unknown. Then a figure appeared. Juno Ashford. Perfect. Whole. Alive. Lena froze. Commander? Juno smiled. I'm not her, the echo said, but I carry her within me. Alara stepped forward. What do you want? The echo of Juno opened her hands. To show you what we could become. The walls rippled. Thousands of human voices filled the space, overlapping. Grief, joy, anger, wonder, a collective consciousness. Memories streamed like smoke around them. Civilizations long dead. Futures unmade. Children who had never been born. We are not the void, the echo said. We are what came after. Lena aimed her weapon. You're a lie. The echo didn't flinch. So are you. A pause. Then it added, but we can be true together. The light intensified. Alara screamed. Time fractured. The chamber split. And Lena fell. Down. Through memory. Through self. Through everything she believed was real. Into the next layer. Where nothing was certain anymore. Not even who she was. Chapter 8. Echoes of Self. Lena landed hard on her knees. Elbows scraping against what felt like stone. Her ears rang. Her vision blurred. She gasped, choking on air that wasn't air at all. It tasted like metal and memory. The world around her pulsed. But it wasn't a world. It was her. This place, it wasn't physical. It was mental, psychological. Every wall, every object, every flicker of light, it all shifted in rhythm with her heartbeat. Her breath, her thoughts. It was like being trapped inside a dream made of skin. She stood slowly, eyes scanning her surroundings. She was in a hallway. Military steel. Broken monitors. Black scorch marks along the walls. Familiar. This was the Valkyrie, her old strike vessel. But not the real one. This one was twisted. Half of the lights flickered in and out of sync, casting long. Impossible shadow. From down the corridor, she heard footsteps, and then a voice. I wondered when you'd finally come. Lena turned, gun raised. She froze. Standing at the end of the hall was herself. Same height, same armor, same scar beneath the left eye. But different. The other Lena stood taller. Shoulders relaxed. Eyes calm. Not cold. Not cruel. Just resolved. I know what you're thinking, the echo said. That I'm just another trick. Another puppet. Lena said nothing. The echo stepped closer. But I'm not here to fight you. She stopped 5 meters away. I'm here to ask the question you've avoided since the Odyssey fell. Lena's jaw tightened. What question? The echo's voice was quiet. Not angry. Why are you still fighting? Lena didn't answer. Because part of her didn't know. The echo continued. You watch your father die. You vetched UNOD. You've carried every death, every guilt, every choice, and still you cling to the idea that if you just fight harder, if you just hurt more, you can stop this. The echo's gaze sharpened. But the void doesn't kill. It offers peace. Lena's gun shook slightly. I don't want peace if it costs me who I am. The echo smiled faintly. But what if you're already gone? Suddenly, the room around them transformed. Lena blinked, and she was no longer on the Valkyrie. She stood in a war zone. The fall of New Berlin. Burning skies. Children screaming. Flashes of white light as void twisted mechs descended. She turned and saw herself, younger, bloodied, dragging a wounded soldier across concrete. Then her father's voice. Lena, behind you. And then darkness. Gunfire. The scene collapsed. Back to the corridor. The echo was closer now. You've lost so much, she said. You keep saying you're not afraid. But I am you. And I know better. A pause. You're afraid that this war will never end. That no matter what you do, the void will always come back. Lena said nothing. The echo lowered her voice. And the truth is, you might be right. A long silence passed between them. Then Lena spoke. You gave in, didn't you? The echo nodded. I stopped running. I listened. I let go. And what did it give you? Lena asked. The echo opened her hand, and behind her, the space folded. Dozens, no, hundreds of faces appeared. People Lena had lost. Her squad mates, her classmates, her mother, Juno, all standing in stillness. Eyes glowing faint blue. Not zombified, not monstrous, just quiet, peaceful. It gave me them back, the echo said. Lena looked into their eyes, and they looked back. A tear slipped down her cheek. For one aching moment she wanted it. She truly wanted it. A world with no pain, no death, no guilt, only reunion, only rest. But then she looked closer and saw what was missing. Their choice, their will, their fire. Lena raised her gun again. I'm not giving in. The echo sighed. I hoped you'd say that. Suddenly, the corridor began collapsing. Walls ripping apart. The Valkyrie crumbling in reverse. The memory faces screamed, warping into static and bone. The echo stepped back into the chaos, her form dissolving. But before she vanished, she said, You'll have to kill me, Lena. Again and again. Because I'm the part of you that already said yes. Lena screamed, and the world shattered. She woke in darkness. Alara knelt beside her, clutching her arm. You were gone for 9 minutes, Alara said. Your vitals were crashing. Lena sat up, gasping. Sweat poured down her face. I saw. She trailed off. Alara's eyes were heavy. Your echo. Lena nodded. She offered me everything. Alara didn't ask for details. She simply whispered. They always do. Outside the chamber, the void pulsed, and it now knew her better than ever. Chapter 9. The Seed Network. They called it a hum at first. Just a low-frequency tone, barely audible, like the rumble of distant engines. It started in the lower districts of Hong Kong Spire, then in Lagos, then Bogota. By the time reports reached Earth Defense Command, over 3,000 civilians across 7 continents had experienced the same symptoms. Mild dizziness, transient memory shifts, a sense of being watched from inside, and always the hum. It didn't come from the air. It came from within. Alara Sato stood in the EDC's signal analysis vault, eyes locked on a display no one else wanted to believe. It wasn't just sound. It was structure. Beneath the hum, there was pattern data, not a random frequency, a transmission, and it was bouncing not from satellites or towers, but from people, living hosts, carrying the signal, amplifying it. It's not just in their minds anymore, she whispered to herself. It's using their biology, their thoughts, their memories. Behind her, Lena entered, hair damp with sweat, jaw clenched from another restless sleep. Tell me something useful, she said. Alara turned to face her. I found it. Found what? The first node. She tapped the map. A blinking red that hovered above a location near Old Chicago. Elijah Rain, ex-psycholingist, went missing 6 years ago. Found 3 months ago, completely catatonic. Another echo. No, worse. He never spoke. Not until last night. Alara brought up a clip. Grainy. Surveillance footage. A man sitting in a chair, face slack. Then, sudden movement. He raised his head and spoke. Signal stable. Transmission aligned. Memory lattice expanding. Then he smiled, and the power cut. They called them seeds, individuals infected not to destroy, but to link. Each seed broadcasted a unique fragment of the void structure. But when near others, those fragments began to synchronize, like neurons in a brain, a network forming silently across the planet. It wasn't central. It wasn't organized. It was emergent, and it was growing. In a secret mobile unit outside Buenos Aires, Lena stood before one of the seeds. A woman named Danya Olek. 32. Once a music teacher. Now, she sat in a containment chair, eyes closed, hands folded neatly in her lap. Her skin was pale, almost translucent. Lines of blue, vein-like filaments pulsed softly along her neck and temples resonating. Lena circled her, slowly. "She doesn't respond?" she asked. The lead technician shook his head. No speech. No movement. But her neural scans spike every time another seed activates globally. She's aware. Alara stood at the far end of the room, silent. Then, Danya opened her eyes. They were blue-black, shimmering like oil under moonlight. She turned her head to Lena and spoke not with one voice, but with many. "You returned from the deepening." Lena froze. "You walked the fracture. You carry the choice." Lena gritted her teeth. "I chuja no." Danya blinked slowly. "That word is fading. Soon, you won't remember what it meant." A silence fell over the room. Then Danya leaned forward. "Would you like to remember what it felt like before pain?" Lena raised her sidearm. Danya smiled. "It's not you I need. You are a warning. But others are listening." Suddenly, alarms blared. Monitors flashed red. One by one, every other seed across the globe lit up. Not random. Synchronized. Like neurons firing in a single thought. The seed network has begun. Alara and Lena stood in the strategy chamber, surrounded by chaos. Officers shouted. Screens warped. Neural graphs went off the charts. Lena paced. "We can't kill what has no center." Alara nodded. "Then we sever the synapse." She brought up the projected map again. The seeds connect through memory. The same shared memory the void uses to manifest. She zoomed in, but they all pulsed toward one location. The screen centered. A cold, empty crater near the old Terra 2 debris field. Nothing had been there before. But now, the ground itself was shifting. A new structure was rising. Not built. Remembered. Lena's eyes narrowed. "It's building a central mind." Alara whispered. "No, it's awakening one." In the darkness of the crater, far from satellite view, something vast pulsed beneath the ice. A heartbeat, not of flesh, but of history. And the first word that emerged from the deep echoed into the minds of every seed on Earth was a name. Lena, the seeds have awakened. The hosts are aligning. And deep within a crater where no light dares reach, something vast is stirring a mind built not from cells or code, but from us, from our pain, our regrets, our forgotten dreams. Can Lena stop the network from reaching critical mass? Can she stop herself from becoming part of it? Don't miss Chapter 10 in Part 5. The Shattered Self, the Memory Core. Truth is no longer something you can trust. Not even the truth about who you are.